Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Today I want to talk to you guys about the books that I read for Nonfiction November. Nonfiction November for me was, I would say, incredibly successful, not necessarily so much in the quantity of books that I read, but that in I loved everything that I read. I mean, the quality of the books that I read was just it was so good. I think I had multiple 5-star reads. Let's see, of the 5 books that I'm counting specifically for Nonfiction November, 4 of them were 5-star reads for me. So I mean, what else could I possibly have asked for in Nonfiction November? It was really absolutely amazing. And so let's get right into the books that I read. So the first one is the Undocumented Americans by Carla Cornejo Villavicencio. This is a collection of essays that she's written about the different immigrant experiences in the United States, focusing obviously on Latinx immigrants. And wow, she does not hold back one bit. There is so much heart in this, even when she's telling us about the lives of other individuals. She really opens a door into her own life as well, into her heart and her mind, and she just really lays it all out for you. I've found out so much about the things that immigrants have helped done, have had to endure, have experienced in this nation that I didn't even really, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily surprising, because obviously immigrants are everywhere in this nation and have a part in so much, if not every part of what makes this country what it is. But that whenever we hear about certain aspects of certain topics and certain things that she discusses, immigrants are not really the group of people that we're told about. And I mean, she goes into everything from the water, the lead in the water in Flint, Michigan, to 9/11, and things that I had never even sat to think about. This book is eye-opening. It is raw. It is beautifully written. She does not hold back. It really packs a punch, and I was left just in awe when I finished it. 5 stars. Highly could not recommend it enough. The next book that I read was highly recommended to me by my friend Lupita over at Instagram. I will link her Instagram down below. She is a Latinx queer book reviewer and bookstagrammer, and she does really amazing things. She does like a Latinx bookstagram tour during Latinx Heritage Month, where she highlights different creators, and she's just amazing. And one of her favorite books of all time, if not like her favorite book of all time, is Good Talk by Mira Jacobs. And this is a memoir in conversations, and it is a graphic memoir. So it is written, and the artwork is done by her as well. And it is about the difficult conversations that she has to have about identity, about family, about color, gender, race. Those conversations that she needs to have with her family, with her husband. She's an Indian woman who is darker skinned than the rest of her family, and so that's something that she's always had to grapple with. And she talks about the first time that she sort of realized that this was even a problem, and how her family dealt with it, and how they introduced this issue to her, and the different ways in which they view this. The book opens up with a question by her young son. I believe he's like 7 or something along those lines. He's pretty young, and he begins to be a little bit obsessed with Michael Jackson, and so he starts to see the pictures of him, and in some he's lighter and some he's darker, and so he starts asking questions about color and about race. And it's around the time she takes us through two political races, presidential races, and what both meant to her. She marries a white man, and the difficult conversations that they need to have, and how he sometimes doesn't understand Not that he doesn't want to, it's just that because of the experiences that he's had as a man, as a white man, sometimes he will advise her in ways that are not helpful and can be not necessarily demeaning, but just they miss the points. And it's just, wow, again, this is another book that I'm so glad that I read it, and I can't believe that it took me as long as it did. But if you have not read it, please pick it up. If you like memoirs, if you like graphic novels, if you like political books, if you are mostly a nonfiction reader but are curious about graphic novels, I would pick this up as well. I would just recommend it to everybody. It is so amazing. If you're gonna be a parent and are wondering about the types of conversations that you might have with your kid, I would recommend this as well. I can't stop talking about it. It's amazing. I love it. I also I was given the PDF to this book. He's a local author, local to my area, author. His name is JP Infante, and we've been, I think, following each other on Instagram for a while. I have worked with Dominican writers when I did the giveaway for Dominicana, and they follow him as well, and so we kind of had mutual followers, and I think that's how we were able to find each other on Instagram. And he expressed interest in sending me his book, which is it's a small, I think they call it like a chapbook, yeah, and it's a mix of poetry and memoir about his relationship with his mother and different aspects of her life and how he viewed her, and reflectively how he views their relationship now as an adult. And I read it twice because it was very short, so I was able to read it and then reread it again. At first, I guess the writing of it felt a bit jumpy or choppy just because of the shortness of the sentences, but that's more of a me thing. And then also, once I read it again, it felt like I wasn't reading. It felt like we were sitting down having a conversation, and he was telling me these stories, but at the same time it felt like he wasn't telling me everything, and like I was being held at the edge. And there's so much more still left to explore, which I know he's still writing and he's gonna come out with more things. So I loved it. I read it twice, like in the same night. I recommend it if you like. It's on Kindle if you wanna download it. I also bought it from the publisher, which is I think 30 West or something like that is the publisher. It's like an indie publisher, so I bought it to support them. I think it was a Saturday after Black Friday, which is when you're supposed to be like when you're people try to get you to help like independent publisher or independent really anything. So I bought the book. It hasn't arrived yet, but I'm very excited to get it. I'm excited to see sort of what else he writes. I'm really curious about more of the local Latinx writing world in New York. And so yeah, actually I don't think I said what it was called. It's called On the Tip of Your Mother's Tongue by JP Infante. Then I listened to the audiobook of White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism by Robin DiAngelo, with a foreword by Michael Eric Dyson. And I had heard a talk of hers earlier this year, I believe, in which she pretty much talks about a lot of the things that she discusses in her book. She's a white woman who is hired by organizations to do talks about diversity and race and those types of topics in the workforce, and she talks about the things that she's noticed and the sort of ideas that she's developed about how to think about why it's so difficult for white people to talk about race and racism. And so she goes through the list of reasons why she thinks why she views it as such a difficulty for them to have. She talks about examples in her own life about when it might have been difficult for her, or when she has made a misstep in talking to a black coworker or things like that. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was informative. She doesn't say really anything that Galileo. Galileo. Okay. Okay. She doesn't necessarily, I wouldn't say it's groundbreaking, but I mean, she definitely knows sort of her place in this conversation and she acknowledges it, so I appreciate that. I thought it was an informative and good read. It was a fast audiobook, so I recommend it. I recommend it if you're a white person and maybe you don't talk about race. It makes you uncomfortable. Maybe she'll kind of open your eyes to why you feel some of that discomfort, because when we all start to learn and expand our ways of thinking, there's a lot of discomfort that comes with it, because we start to realize that some of the thought processes that we have had, or the opinions, may be rooted in not so positive things, and that comes with a lot of discomfort, and you have to acknowledge it in order to move on and learn. So perhaps give it a shot. Then last but not least was my last 5-star read, which is Catch and Kill by Ronan Farrow. He was an investigative journalist and had a show on NBC for a while. It wasn't very successful, so he started doing sort of other investigative work and would be featured in other NBC shows, and it is about how he begins to investigate the Weinstein situation, horrendous situation, life and all of his crimes, and his horrendous way of being, and it is about how media can forget its role and be swayed and be paid off and not do really what it's supposed to do. That journalists will not do what they're supposed to do. They will forget why they started to do this work, and let powerful men dictate what they do, corporations dictate what they do, corporations like NBC and I believe Comcast, it might be its parent company, let money dictate what they do, and it's about how he finds how many other journalists have tried to break the story and have been prevented from doing so. He discusses this sort of catch and kill concept of media, or maybe it's a magazine or a news organization or something like that, buying a story in order to kill it. Something that happened a lot with like Donald Trump and other powerful individuals. It's about how money is transferred in order to shut up victims. What I appreciated the most here is that he really tries at every point in his storytelling to focus the story on the victims, on the women who have been silenced for so long. He's the son of Mia Farrow and Woody Allen, so he talks a little bit about that. But what I think in order for him, he also tries to sort of take some accountability himself, because he does talk about the abuse that his father, Woody Allen, which is very clear that he doesn't have a relationship with him. He refers to him purely as Woody Allen the entire time. The abuse that he did on his sister, his I think biological sister and his adoptive sister, and he talks about how he failed his sister when she initially wanted to come forward with the story and started telling the family about it, and he sort of told her to get over it. And so it's something that you can really tell that he regrets and that he's very sorry for. But I appreciate that he didn't hide that in this book, and I think it adds validity to how much he actually cares about the women whose story he's telling, and who he's trying so hard to get them to trust him, so that and he's trying so hard to not fail them, even though he's hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, both in NBC. And so what happens is when NBC does not let him continue to investigate and ultimately report, he then goes on to the New Yorker, where the story breaks, and he won a Pulitzer Prize, I believe, for that story, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I mean, I love this. Love obviously is a weird thing to say about a book like this. I appreciated so much everything that he did. I really felt that he felt for these women. I really thought that he was trying to do right by them at every step of the way. It was eye-opening, really, to see. I mean, you kind of suspect that when money talks, you know, so it's not really surprising the things that he talks about, but at the same time it is, because you so desperately want to believe that these things don't happen, but they do, unfortunately. And hopefully stories like this shed a light on that. And he does also talk about the women at the New York Times, which were also publishing stories around the same time. I do want to read their book as well. I believe it's called She Said. I'll put a picture of it here. But yeah, that's also a 5-star read. I loved it. It felt very personal, but never like he was centering himself in the story. So. And then, not a book that I read, but one that I acquired, is Once I Was You by Maria Hinojosa, a memoir of love and hate in a torn America. This is a new release. I actually found it at a used bookstore, but it is brand new. And I got it for like 50% off, so I'm not exactly sure how that happened. I wonder if somebody got this as a gift and just sold it or whatever. Regardless, it's been getting really good reviews, and I've been wanting to read it since I found out that it was coming out. She is the executive producer and host of the podcast Latinos USA. She's also like a journalist. Her work includes PBS, CBS, WGBH, WNBC, CNN, and NPR. The Latino USA podcast won the Peabody Award as well. So yeah, she has won 4 Emmys and the Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism. That's very cool. So yeah, she's a Latinx American woman who I admire, and whose story I really want to read. So I will hopefully be getting to this sometime soon, and then you'll probably see it on a recommendations video next year for like Latinx Heritage Month or something like that. So yes, I loved this Nonfiction November. I read some amazing new favorites, and I hope that you did as well. Let me know if you have a video or anything like that. I'd love to check it out. Tell me what you read. Tell me if you read any of these and what you thought about them. Let me know if you have read this already and what you think about it as well, or any recommendations that are similar to these that you think I might enjoy. I also did a reading blog, which I'll link above and down below if you want to check it out as well. Thank you for watching and for listening. I love you guys very much.